Hi there, and welcome to episode 86 of the ADHD Adults podcast. I'm James Brown, the man who is sadly neither out of sight or mind. And as usual, I'm joined by the man whose mind is far from beautiful, Dr. Alex Connor, and the woman who puts all our minds at ease, Mrs. ADHD. Hi, Alex.
I don't mind if I do. Hello.
Good one, Al.
Jesus Christ. And Sam, hi.
Hiya.
Good. Before I ask how you both are, I think we should quickly talk about the London event, if that's okay.
I'm going to be fine.
Yeah. So you know the talks I'm doing, which I don't talk about.
Your little talks.
Yeah, little talks. Well, very benevolently, I decided maybe we should do one of them as a live podcast event. And Seed Talks hated the idea, and then when we sold a few tickets, we're like, oh, okay, then. So on March the 22nd at the Genesis Cinema in London,
22 is my favourite number as well.
Relevant
conversation bomb as usual. We're doing a live face-to-face podcast episode. You'll have the usual shenanigans, the usual correspondence and games, and some audience participation. It's not going to be recorded, so you have to be there on the day. And if you want to, but we'll talk about that later. And if you want to, you kind of get to meet us, I suppose. Why you would want to, I don't know. But yeah, tickets are available on our bio for the ADHD Adults Do the Science of ADHD Live.
And any of us remember which theatre in London it is?
I said Genesis Cinema.
Oh, God,
yes, you did.
Well done.
I forgot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Quite
mind wandering, was it, Al? Anyway, how are you both? Mrs. ADHD first.
I'm all right today, actually. And that's all I've ever known.
Middle ground.
I know, yeah. It's not been a good week, I don't think, but
Wow.
I can't remember. But I'm all right today, thanks.
Hungry though, aren't you?
I am starving.
And Alex,
I asked you how she was earlier, James. She said hungry. I'm excellent,
Alex,
thank you. Thank you for asking, James.
How
Numbers
are
of
you,
this
James?
is.
Oh, sorry.
No.
We don't normally do that, do we?
No, we don't ever do that. But we joke about it in the Thursday episode. But we just don't ask me.
Oh,
we don't ask.
Yeah.
I'm unimportant.
And there's a script as well, Sam, where I have to tell people that the numbers are listening and, blah, blah, blah.
Sorry. I'm going to look at that.
The numbers are listening, despite Sam being more involved, which is baffling. And James, one of those numbers sent us a letter.
Number?
Well, yeah, I mean, did he?
Which number?
No, he didn't. He died. No. This letter is from Baron Albescu from Transylvania. It says, I listened to your episode on sensory issues. And actually, James can, of course, sense blood from 3 miles away since I turned him into a Dracula. It says here.
Into a Dracula.
So that's my other father then, basically, isn't it?
Your sire. Yeah. We have had a real letter though, another real letter that I'm going to read out, and it says, "Afternoon, lads," which is a bold start. Wouldn't normally send messages to random profiles on here, but yeah. Well, it might be Irish because a lot of people.
Yeah, I do like that actually.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Aisling B refers to the science lads. Anywho, wouldn't normally send messages to random profiles on here, but I felt I needed to, so here goes. Mainly wanted to say thank you. I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD and started doing research as to what it actually means to have this bastard of a problem. Couldn't really find much online. Well, I could, but for me, physically learning from reading is near impossible. I found your podcast mentioned on a Facebook page, don't know what that is, and I cannot believe how much I've learned about myself and ADHD from listening to you. I've grown up being embarrassed of facial twitches, always feeling I'm different to others, forgetting, unable to say words my brain is thinking, and never able to find stuff. Being a big old lump of a bloke, yeah, recognise that. Running to burning buildings for my job, not scared of much in life, and yet there I was, almost brought to tears at your one episode, which you spoke about not getting emotional over a family member dying. I recently lost both of my parents and didn't shed a tear, chewed myself to bits over it. So to hear that this is because of the ADHD has almost broke me. It's been brilliant listening to you and look forward to listening to more episodes again. Thanks again, Ad. Oh, I'm assuming you can read that out.
Well, you have, so thanks, Ad. Not a paid ad, I hope. Jesus Christ. That's an actual joke written by Alex. And you can often tell If you're looking at him, he has to put his hand up when he makes a joke, but you can often tell because it's objectively not funny.
The paid ad. Also, internationally, we're up to, hang on, 147 countries.
Wow.
The latest one almost certainly isn't South Africa, but we really have zero idea anymore. We've lost the plot, and James has properly mailed this one in today. So why not? With that in mind, a proud hello and welcome. I don't know what that's Afrikaans, is it? To whoever accidentally left their iPhone unlocked. So their 8-year-old downloaded the podcast 2,449 times in South Africa.
That is a very specific number.
Just read out the numbers, James. The metric guy emails them to us. I don't know what the numbers mean. You did the emails to the metrics guy, right?
Oh yeah. From the same guy that edits the podcast, he sends me emails as well. Anyway, as usual, this bearded ex-academic who corrects you when you say less than 10 items instead of fewer of the podcast is a tragedy in 3 parts. We choose a theme. Last week was about ADHD and sensory processing, and this week we're focusing on a topic that quite a few people have asked us about in one way or another, and that's ADHD and mind wandering. Thanks to an anonymous psychiatrist for suggesting this, and actually we're going to read that letter out for once. Or Mrs. ADHD, actually, do you want to do it? No, because she's looking somewhere else. Brilliant.
No, I can do it. Sorry, I had a nick in my nail and, I have to deal with those immediately. But I moved away from the mic, so I've learned. Okay, right. So this isn't the whole message, but I'll read out bits of it. Just emailing to say how great the podcast is and how, like everyone else, I just stumbled upon it. I'm a psychiatrist. I have ADHD and work with many patients with ADHD. I've recommended your podcast far and wide. It has led me to be far more tuned into myself, spotting the inner chaos and recognizing the things I do. Like I feel rejected if someone makes a comment in a WhatsApp group, or that the endless putting off, going to bed and exhaustion has really got a name. A good tool for picking up inattentive type ADHD is the Mind Excessively Wandering Scale, or Muse. Girls often do not get picked up, that's true, as they do not have a history of hyperactivity, and this tool is also useful at menopause to discriminate between forgetfulness due to that and underlying ADHD. Interesting.
That is interesting. I love that psychiatrists in your face, Al. I love that any psychiatrist would listen to this. So thanks, Sam. As usual, the 3 parts include Alex the Psychoeducation Monkey's verbal masturbation on the topic of ADHD and mind wandering, our personal reflections on the topic, and the 3rd part, where things generally deteriorate into a variety of top tips, typics, spunking of trumpets, trumpers, etc. So, Alex, before our minds wander...
Right, James. I have to say, first of all, 2 things. One, that letter really means a lot to us because there's nothing more amazing than professionals who learn from people with lived experience. It's incredible. And the other annoying thing is that Sam can just fucking wander in and do psychoeducation without stumbling, apparently. When did that happen? Right. Mind wandering occurs when one's mind drifts away from the task one is focused on. James wrote that bit because he thinks it's funny for me to say one twice, like one's mind.
I thought it was funny.
The joke's on him, though, because that is simply accurate. It's correct. Anywho, when one's mind wanders away and focuses on task-unrelated thoughts and images, everyone's mind wanders. Obviously, it does. And there is some evidence that in all of us, it's half of our daily thinking time is just mind wandering. And this isn't a bad thing, not at all. It isn't always a bad thing. Some forms of mind wandering are beneficial to individuals. So, e.g., planning to hunt someone in my massive woods while driving a car.
I had to do the ding. We got told off we're not doing dings for Forest, so.
Oh, my massive woods. Yeah, that is. What it actually said is strategically planning a project while driving a car. James, thank you. Also reflecting on how to do things better in the future. That's fundamental. Other forms of mind wandering can be, detrimental. So if you have spontaneous, uncontrolled thoughts that interfere with your tasks, such as listening to someone speak. James, what did I just say? No idea.
Something like woods.
No,
Massive
you've gone.
woods.
You've been gone for a while.
Yeah.
So these two types, like different types of mind wandering, are called deliberate and spontaneous. Excellent question, Sam.
I was waiting for you to
Yes.
say respectively, and you
Oh,
did
for
that
God's
on purpose.
sake. I mean, literally,
Isn't that just
it doesn't have
thinking?
to.
Before we came on here, Alex was going, you need to. I said, I haven't even looked at the script. And he said, you need to, because there's a bit where you have to say in between the psychoeducation. But you left the last word off purposely to trip me up.
I read a
Isn't
bit.
that just thinking, Al?
Shh. Sorry, right. Okay, so yes, it is just thinking, really. There are different types of what a thought is. You know, in biology, we call thinking in general the hard question thing because we don't know what a thought is. But broadly speaking, there are different types of thought which are pretty clearly different. Mind wandering is thought to be different from rumination. James, that's not what cows do when they eat their dinner.
Oh, I thought
Rumination. Yes, it's sort of.
Oh, it is.
So
Okay.
mind wandering and rumination are independent of what's going on outside in our environments, and they're usually unrelated to a current task we might be doing or thinking about. So thoughts during mind wandering can move hither and thither, whereas thoughts during rumination tend to be more fixed on a single topic.
You're going to make me say it, aren't you, Al?
Something about ADHD, give me drugs, I've got an IQ of 67. That's right, James.
I love the Birmingham accent.
ADHD and I'm so sorry, Birmingham. I do love you. ADHD and mind wandering are very much linked. Spontaneous mind wandering, which remember is often detrimental to performance as it's not wandering around a useful topic. So this has been proposed as a mechanism explaining many, if not all, of the symptoms and impairments of ADHD. And it includes something we've talked about before, that like boring named default mode network. DMN, the demon. Oh, it's the demon of the brain. I call it chilling mode without a G at the end, James, because I think we can all agree I look cool when I use a G drop phoneme in speech. Don't I, James?
No, you don't, objectively.
This network, sometimes called the daydreaming network as well, for people with a better grasp of words than James, this network is a potential source of. This is the most fucking boring phrase I've ever said, but it just means reflecting on stuff. Self-generated thoughts unrelated to external goal-related tasks, goal-directed tasks. It's a network of brain parts, including the bit at the front, the prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, which is like a band at the side, and the medial temporal regions, which are also at the side, actually. And these are activated during the resting state, so when a person is awake, but we're daydreaming in a daydreaming state.
That's all the time for me.
And
never work with children, animals, or James. They told me, the police, and I should have listened. So the demon, I like that. The DMN is usually switched off by the brain network when you really got to do something. Anything you got to do, any task. Equally boringly named task positive network (TPN). These two networks are anti-correlated. I like that, which means in most brains, when ones are firing, the others are not. But, and it's a big but, James, in ADHD, the demon, the DMN, seems to not switch off properly during a task when the TPN switches on, leading to our minds popping off in all directions, in all directions when we're meant to be operating heavy machinery. I assume I get a man into the menial stuff. It says here. You can tell James wrote that bit because he genuinely doesn't know when it says don't operate heavy machinery. It just means cars. Don't drive, it really means. It doesn't mean forklift trucks and so on.
Really?
It means that as well, but essentially heavy machinery really is referring to people not driving. This can obviously be a big deal. Try explaining to your boss who's just asked you, give me a rundown on the clients, and I can't because I was thinking about the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody. Scaramouche. In fact, one study reported that the subjective experience of mind wandering alone can provide
Sam,
no
sorry,
audio
Sam.
media.
I'm sorry.
Sam, you are just a young boy, but be quiet. Provides. So if you ask people for their subjective experience of mind wandering, that can provide a better prediction of ADHD associated impairment than the actual diagnostic traditional ADHD inattention, hyperactive, impulsive symptoms themselves. Bored myself again.
Yeah, and everybody else. So we better take a break before I sing Mama, I Just Killed a Man, or Alex. We'll see you in part 2 for some personal reflections. Alex, hi.
Aight. What's up? Hello, Governor.
Welcome back to episode 86 of ADHD. No, oh, sorry. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to episode. I know, yeah. Welcome back to episode 86 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we're talking about ADHD and mind wandering. This is part 2, where we talk about personal reflections on mind wandering. James, erection story.
That is fantastic.
Jumped the shark there, hasn't she? Amazing. Yes.
Oh,
yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, it was interesting to my brain, so I carried on reading.
Yeah.
So it was in James's his script colour though, wasn't it?
I know.
And yeah, but still.
But I read
wonderful
James.
moments. Yeah. Still, I mean, you did up until that point. That was, 3 starts wasn't great, but that was textbook. When you did the 3rd start, you got everything right. So well done. Yeah, erection story. Thanks for that hospital pass, wife of mine, as it involves you. So mind wandering, I mean, it really can affect not just you, but the people around you. And the story that I talk about when I do my little talks, and this actually happened, is I give the example of it's really hard to maintain an erection when you're thinking about crisps. And it is that when you're focused on a task that's really important, and, sexing your partner may be considered important. If all of a sudden, when you're in that moment, your mind just goes, oh, I had some prawn cocktail crisps earlier. They were lovely. And you then lose the state of arousal because it's males and females, obviously, that can mind wander. Try explaining that to your partner, that all of a sudden you can't engage in that task because you were thinking about crisps. Beyond that, the amount of times when people are talking, I've got the magic roundabout theme playing in my head, and I'm just off somewhere else, flitting from idea to idea during this podcast, during complex health and safety instructions in the lab when I used to be a scientist. And then often what will happen is I'll kind of snap back and then think, oh, fuck, I mean, how bad can hydrofluoric acid be? It's such a large part of my ADHD that I think that last study you mentioned, which I was listening to, was right. That I think it's probably a bigger issue or a bigger driver of our symptoms and our impairments than the diagnostic symptoms of inattentiveness and hyperactivity. For me, it's massive ding. Sam, what about you?
Thanks for that, by the way, Anna. Well, this is just constant for me, and I just presumed that everybody was the same. I don't know if I've described what goes on in my head before, but let me. Imagine you're stuck in between. There is a point. In between 2 radio stations on an old-fashioned radio, and you can hear them both at the same time. So you can hear 2 talk hosts talking about 2 completely different subjects. But imagine it's more than 2. There's loads of them going on at the same time. So they're not all talking. Some of them are playing music. Some of them are just saying random words and phrases. There's all sorts going on in there. But while I'm focusing on one, so for instance, now while I'm talking, I'm focusing on one. I call them streams, but I can hear all the other streams going on. So
they all your voice, Sam?
Yeah, they're all my voice. I'm not mental. They're all my voice.
I mean, we are, and that's okay if that is something.
Yes. Yeah, they're all my voice. It's all basically my thoughts, but they're in different streams. They're nicely organized. They're not. And while I'm thinking of one thing or talking about one thing, I can still hear all the other streams, and I'll be like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll switch to that one. So I focus on that one, but then I can hear something going on in the other one, and I'll focus on that one. And then there's a nice song, which I'm singing. I don't know all the lyrics. So a lot of the time I'm just, or a random word that sounds interesting. So I'll just say that, and I hop around all the time. And I'm just constantly distracted by my own thoughts all the time, especially when I'm trying to get to fucking sleep or someone's talking to me. So that's just normal for me. And I thought everybody was the same.
No, they're not.
Oh,
No, we're really not. And what about you, Alex?
oh,
Just
sorry.
sat down.
Alex, what about you?
So, thanks for the ableist language, Sam, because my voices aren't all. They're not all my voice.
Oh, really?
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same, constant and the same. Not all my voice.
Many of them the voices of his victims haunting him from the past. Yeah.
Ironic, I'm going to regret this next statement. Sometimes when I'm trying to get to sleep, it is female voices like screaming at me and making me anxious.
I thought that would suit you. I thought you
how
liked
can
that.
you laugh at that? We literally run a charity for people with mental health, and James is laughing.
No,
at that.
I'm laughing at the idea that I said your previous victims' voices, and then
know,
you said
that
I
is
can
how he
hear
said it.
women screaming.
No, I know. That's why I did not want to tell you this.
I find
So,
this
I know.
fascinating.
It's not very often. It's usually when I'm not feeling very well. But yeah, they're not all my voice, and it's really not very nice. And I've often wondered about like the links between neurodivergence and schizophrenia and those kinds of things, because I can snap out of it and just silence them. But when it's like that, but I often don't know it's happening. I don't really know it's not right. This has been exactly like you, Sam. Exactly the same. It's fucking constant for me.
But you can silence
Unless-
them. That's really interesting.
Yeah, we talked about that after one of James' little talks, didn't we, recently? That I am able to turn them off if I can. It's a bit like my sort of hyperactivity and tic, my physical stims.
Sheffield.
They're not. It's not like OCD, exactly. It's more like I can turn them off. I just don't notice I'm doing them.
Right.
So my brain decides that the task positive network is all consuming, and I must not let my mind wander, and then that's when it happens because my brain's a little shit. And I know everybody's mind wanders sometimes, so it's really hard to spot whether yours is more than how do you know. It's a major element of the core symptoms, really. It's mind staying on task is one of the diagnostic criteria. I was used to describe my brain before I knew about ADHD as a voice in my head, my voice saying, think about something else, not that. Whatever it was, didn't matter. Do something else. You're doing the wrong thing. Whatever I'm doing. So I would change, and then my brain would go, no, that's wrong. So I'll go back. And it's absolutely constant. My mind wandering, telling me. I've obviously staying on task is just what I can't do. It's kind of funny. Obviously, it's funny here, but in a relationship as a son to parents trying to, just get me to do something for them, or as a parent myself, I'm trying to listen to my kids when I really want to, but my brain's going, just wandering off is sort of humiliating and feels shameful, and sort of you're not the person you want to be. I was in a work meeting once, which was about potential redundancies, and there was about 50 people in the audience, and I was in the audience at the front, and there was like a panel of proper bigwigs. They were all talking about something. I'd fucking gone. God knows where I was. Magic roundabout stuff. And then I heard this, which Alex will now explain. And and luckily this was relatively recently, and I said, I'm sorry, because of my neurodevelopmental condition, I'd gone for a while. Would you mind repeating the question? Because fuck it, I've got a social power, I'm going to exploit it mercilessly. Yeah, that's it really. Horrible all the time.
That's a lot, because normally for the personal reflections, sometimes got a bit, but it's interesting to hear actually that this, and satisfying to hear that this massively impairs your life. So we've got time, Alex, sadly, for a game of What's James Lost, Forgotten, or Mislaid this week. I'm not going to give you a choice because actually you're doing better. So we're going to talk about hotel room.
Works?
No, well, I'm just trying to obviously game the system so that he loses. I can't have him. He's 5-4 up, I think. I can't have this carrying on. So I'm just going to give you hotel room.
Okay. And/or couldn't be bothered to think of two, just putting it out there.
No, I've got three. mate. But yeah, hotel room. So recently staying in and Sam, you know this answer, so please no clues, no nodding, none of that. Yeah, exactly.
Rude.
We were staying in a hotel room, and we had to change the hotel room because of something that happened that is definitely ADHD related. So the reason that we had to change room because I forgot that I hadn't screwed the top on the bottle of Pepsi Max back on, and picked it up halfway up the bottle and squeezed. Sam's shaking her head, for God's sake.
I mean, you did do that.
Holy fuck.
I've just said, Sam, you know this. So
Okay, sorry.
Okay, yeah, let's. What's the second one, James?
yeah, because it's not that one, obviously. So, Jesus Christ. So was it because I didn't pay attention to the instructions on the air conditioning and set the room to 28.5 degrees and couldn't cool it down? Or was it because I chogged the toilet up and didn't notice actually that there was a plunger in there to unchog it? So we had to say, I'm ever so sorry, we've got to leave because we flooded the bathroom.
Right, I think that it isn't 28.5 degrees because you don't know your decimals yet. I think if you'd have chogged the toilet, you definitely would have offered me a photo of it. And because Sam told me, I think it's the Pepsi Max one.
I was shaking
Fireball!
my head.
Ah,
Yeah. So the Pepsi Max
He
did
told
happen.
me
but
off literally for going
the
like
Pep-
that.
The Pepsi Max happened, but it was just a small bottle and it just landed on the
not enough
shelf.
to-
Yeah,
just
but
to be clear, Sam, you have so many unrestricted movements because of your mental health disorders that if I paid attention when you were shaking your head, I would literally do nothing else.
Fair
yeah.
enough.
So we got the room was a little bit warm. So there was literally a sign that said, in the winter, the room is just set to warm. You cannot cool it down. But instead, we were like, okay, so turn the fan up and turn the temperature down. And then it got up to 28.5 degrees. We opened the window and it was just like a sweatbox. So we had to say, Sam went down to the reception. They were lovely and they moved room. So yeah, you're wrong. 5-all.
Did you blame ADHD? Really interested in whether we do this.
No, I just went down and
No.
went. We've heated the room up to 29 degrees, and he was on his. I didn't listen to what he was saying because my mind was wandering while he was talking to me. And he was on his computer, and I thought, God, that's really clever. He's cooling the room down from reception, but he wasn't. He was moving us rooms, and he handed me the keys, and I went, what? And he said, I'm moving your rooms. We had to move room.
Did you say 29 degrees because you have to round up decimals for James?
No.
That's a good one, actually, Al. Anyway, on that glorious note, we'll take a break and we'll come back for whatever we call the last part now. I don't even know. See you in a bit.
See you in a bit.
No.
Okay.
Welcome back to episode 86 of the ADHD Adults Part 3, Spunk Trumping or whatever. We're talking about everything mind-wandering. So, as always, we get my really great tips on this. Sam's like utterly irrelevant stuff. And then James's, I mean, it's like an anti-advice column. Let's start with that. What about you, James? Top tips for mind-wandering.
Don't listen to what I provide as a top tip would probably be the best tip I can give. I mean, it depends on the circumstance, on where you are. One of the things you can obviously try to do is to try and avoid multitasking, which I know often we tend to fall into because that will reduce the amount of distractions that might lead to mind wandering. It's not necessarily linked to having two screens or having a phone because obviously it's a cognitive process. But by removing distractions, it might help you at least only have one task that you're not effectively engaging with. Try and have a break during the day to sit down and daydream. Have a daydreaming break. Have several during the day. Take 5 minutes every hour if you can, particularly if you work from home, to just sit down and switch off from tasks and then try and re-engage after that 5 minutes. What Alex said about the redundancy meeting, I mean, I've felt that painfully. I was in an exam board when all of a sudden I heard, right, we're going to have to vote on that student's degree classification. And I just thought, what? Exactly. And thought I'll follow the hands. But then the chair said, we're not going to show hands. Everyone's got to send me a private message with whether they think it's a first or a 2-1.
Oh.
And like you, I just fessed up and said, listen, I was somewhere else. I'm so sorry. So if you try and spot if you're starting to drift off, I know it's difficult, but particularly in a situation where it's a really important task, try and spot if you're starting to drift off. But importantly, don't be afraid to say, I'm sorry, I was somewhere else then. it depends on, like Alex says, whether you feel you've got that social power to be able to say that. But we've all, whether you've got ADHD or not, got the ability to say, I'm so sorry, my brain was somewhere else. Because as Alex said, we spend 50% of our thinking time mind wandering. It's just that people with ADHD tend to do it more. So it's okay to say, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I was just somewhere else. Sam, what about you?
I have to minute meetings.
Oh.
And this happens all the time. So yeah, I know. And I've just done some minutes actually, and there were big bits where I've put my mind wandered off. I don't know what happened here. And then I have to go to the people afterwards and say, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you said in this part. And they have to try and tell me. If I remember, I try and record it so that I can look back on it. And actually, ironically, one of my tips was going to be, I write things down when people are talking to me. This is why this whole going online thing is brilliant for me, because it means that I can be writing things down while I'm talking to people without them knowing.
I do that anyway in face-to-face. Always.
Yeah, I don't feel confident enough to do that.
I just tell them why.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. So, but having meetings like this is great, because if I want to interrupt, I'll write down my thought and I'll write down what they're saying to help me to focus on it.
Would it be possible for you to do that for this podcast, do you think? To write down your thoughts instead of just blurting them out immediately before the punchline of a joke?
Absolutely not.
Brilliant.
I could do that actually, yeah. It's a fair thing.
Hard pass.
What I do, but I've just learned that not everybody's brain is like mine, so I don't know if this will help you. But what I do to try and focus my mind is I talk to myself constantly, because when I'm talking, that helps me to stay on a channel. I'm less likely to wander off. So what I do is I talk myself through everything that I'm doing. So I'm like, right, come on then, Sam, let's go and get some breakfast. Okay, we're getting the milk. Go on.
I didn't mean everybody isn't like you. I meant we are like you, but the rest of the population aren't. So I didn't mean for you to think it was only you. I 100% agree with every tip you're giving here, and I do it too.
Okay.
Ding.
Yeah. So that helps me to stay focused, talk to myself. It is annoying for people that I work with, but
and husband and occasional visitor.
And occasional
Yeah.
visitor. Yes. Yeah. And visitors that come into the office will go, I'm sorry, are you talking to me? No, I'm talking to myself. Okay.
It's interesting that it's interesting that when Sam is working on campus, that the person she shares an office with also talks out loud, and you walk in and often think they're having a really disjointed conversation that's just full of these non sequiturs, where one person says, okay, I've got to take that downstairs, and then the other one says, right, okay, dinner for 15 people, and you just think, what? And it takes ages to work out they're just talking out loud to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Said non sequitur. I love it when you come out of character and like James does actually know stuff like that, but he doesn't talk about it. And you're like, oh crap! I mean, doesn't follow words.
It was written down, Alex. It was written down.
What? Because you wrote it.
No.
I haven't got any other tips, because to be honest, this is a massive problem for me, and I haven't worked out how to solve it. So I'll listen to yours. Go on, Al.
I want to add to yours, which is it's not just for people minuting meetings. And as I know you're not ready to, I call it the beautiful book of jobs round with me that isn't for future, it's for now, so I don't interrupt people or as much. If you want to stay on the task, if you are able to write while you're doing it, doesn't have to be an office job. I write down a question I want to ask at the end, and it's massively helpful because it gives me a reward that I might be able to have dialogue later. That's more rewarding than just being a passive listener. And it stops me interrupting as much. And I just doubly say what Sam said is really good idea, and you can do it in loads of areas of your life. So the multitasking thing of James is 100% true as well. But my tip feels like the opposite, but I promise it isn't the opposite. And it's when you do have a task to do that's just one, you can't multitask. Make it a 2-for-1 deal. So it is only one task, so it's not multitasking, but have elements of that task that either achieve 2 things at once or create 2 rewards in one go. This isn't like captain of industry stuff, create a business, and literally any task is hard for us. That's the ADHD,
Ding.
right? What appears to be easy for other people, is that's difficult for us.
Hang
If
on,
you've
I don't
forgotten-
understand that. Can you explain that?
Shall I give you an example?
Please, yeah.
Have you ever had it when you've forgotten to turn the light off and you're looking at it across the room and it's 12 meters across the room, or 2 big
Yeah,
house?
half a meter.
You've forgotten to. You can see it, and you're like, "Oh, I just have to walk across the room and turn it off," but I can't because there's no reward for that. But if I can spot a dirty mug next to the switch, I can do both. So I will look for jobs that I can do. So do you see? It's one task, 2 for 1 deal. So I'm taking the dirty mug downstairs and turning the light off at the same time. So we get 2 elements of reward for doing it. Although I can't just go and get a dirty mug and take it downstairs if it's over there. I can't go and turn the light off easily. The reason that helps is because you double task focus and get double reward feelings. It makes mind wandering slightly less likely if you've doubled the task positive network. So it might be worth chanting those 2 jobs.
What if I
as well.
tenfold it? What if I do 10 jobs at once, which I often do?
The problem with that is that we have chunking cognitively in our brain. We're generally able to hold 4 thoughts. Really clever young people, probably 5. And if you're stressed, you're anxious, you lose 1, so even 3. So really, if it's more than 3 or 4, we're going to forget. And even 4 for me is a bit of a challenge. So unless you can chunk them together, such as crockery, if there's 3 different types of dirty mug, then it will be unlikely to be possible to do more than 3 or 4. Chanting helps as well.
I do that a
The
lot.
second dead quick tip is have an exit timer on your phone. Mind wandering for me is incredibly stress-inducing and stress-induced. If I've got to leave the house in half an hour, but I've got a task to do in that half an hour, I can't focus on that. My mind is wandering so much, going, "Oh, you don't know what time it is. You don't even know what time it is, you fucking idiot." And so what I do is I know that I can give that over to a little robot, my mobile phone, and it will slightly take away that mind wandering stress for me. That's it. Those are my tips. Skunk trumps.
Cheers. Am I reading out the product recommendation of the week?
Why? What is it?
No. Please
I
don't.
mean, it's okay. So yeah,
I was
we
in a
obviously
bad
we haven't-
place.
Yeah, we haven't got one. Let's just put it that way. So that was episode 86 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we discussed ADHD and mind wandering. If by a miracle you enjoyed this episode, why not support the charity on the link provided? Because Oder Alex muss seinen dicken fetten Kopf benutzen, Gebäude as abzureißen. Fuck knows if I got that right.
Wow, that's what you tried to. It sounded like Dutch actually, rather than German. You said, "Oder Alex muss seinen dicken, fetten Kopf benutzen, Gebäude abzureißen." Is that what we're going for? Is
Yes,
it?
that's what I was going for. Yeah.
Okay.
And what does that translate as?
Otherwise, Alex must use his big fat head, but the second fat I use means like lipids rather than But in order to build a what is that? What
To knock buildings down.
Oh yeah.
Buildings.
Oh yeah, very good. Let's not do
I
German
thought
next
so.
time.
I thought so. As usual, if you want to get in touch, contact us on the socials or through the Discord forum, which is now a really buzzing, chaotic squirrel rave with about 2,300 people in it. We will see you on Thursday, which for us is today. Take care.
Bye.
Bye all.
Trigger warning klaxon, 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 big klaxon. Trigger warning klaxon, 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 klaxon. Trigger warning klaxon, klaxon, klaxon.